Perfect. I can.
Where do you start with looking at the rotation?
The rotation?
Yeah.
Well, you know, you got Wetzler and Child that are back from last year's rotation. Certainly Taylor Starr and Matt Boyd both proved they could start. You know, Taylor started a couple games for us last year, and Matt started this summer. And, you know, we see him in the rotation along with Wetzler and Child and Starr, and there's a lot of people that could start. Andrew Morris had a good fall for us. He could start. So, you know, that's kind of how I see it.
Pat, your guys seem very confident up there that they're going to be able to take that next step and get farther along in the tournament. How do you feel like your team is stacking up?
Well, I'm not quite as impressed with them as they are with themselves, it sounds like. But, you know, I think that I like our club, and I think I like the personalities on our team. I certainly appreciate the returners that have had experience in that area. And I'm also very well aware of the talent that's out there, you know, not only in our conference but across the globe here in this landscape of baseball. So, like I said, I'll wait and see how things progress. But at this point, I'm not quite as impressed with them as Baseball America and the guys are.
What would you like to see from them?
Just, you know, a little better understanding the game of baseball itself. You know, I mean, I think that. There's so many intangibles in the game, and there's so many things that never change, and then there's things that always change. And I think that when they figure out the difference between the two, they'll play the game a little better.
You just said a second ago, Andrew Moore possibly could be one of the starters. If he doesn't, I mean, do you expect him to at least come out of the pen and get some more?
Absolutely. You know, he threw very well for us this fall. Very impressed with him. He's got good stuff. You know, the only thing he lacks is game time, and you know, I think the game will be the teacher for him a little bit. But I like Andrew.
In terms of sheer number of leaders you have coming back to this, one of your biggest groups?
As far as numbers, yeah, you know, and then we'll see how they produce. But you know, I like the fact that you have even a guy like Michael Conforto, who was only a sophomore, but I mean, he played such a significant role in our club last year. I think, you know, he provides leadership that's completely different than the type that maybe Matt Boyd or Taylor Starr would with their experience. So I think there's a good blend of leadership on our club. And I think that there's enough youth and new guys that have pressed some of the older guys enough that I think, you know, that helps us.
That mix of youth and experience and combined with the depth, I mean, where does it stack up compared to other clubs that you've had?
Well, you know, I was just seeing how smart I was back there looking at that media guide, and I noticed that I didn't have Mitch Canham in the lineup in 2005. I started a guy named Billy Munich, so I wish I had a good answer for you right now. I guess whoever I start on opening day, it won't be the people I start. I think that club kind of emerges like that club did. You know, who knew that Cole Gillespie would become the guy? I think Cole's first 3 years here, he drove in 9 runs and had, you know, 1 home run. And so it's kind of a mystery to me a little bit, but you could look at our club and say, as far as offensive people are concerned, that they may be somewhat similar to some of those clubs. I don't think we quite have the speed that club had in 2006, but over the last couple, 2 or 3 or 4 years, I would say that offensively we should be as good as we've been before.
For a guy like Conforto, people have a year of tape on him now. How do you expect him to come back as a sophomore and, you know, avoid a slump?
Well, I think LSU had a pretty good tape on him. And, you know, I mean, he makes adjustments. He's going to have to make adjustments this year because, you know, to think that he's going to drive in 76 runs, that probably won't happen. You know, he might drive in more. He might have more RBIs that don't know, but if he doesn't, maybe they're more crucial RBIs. You know, who knows the situation, but I don't think that him, you know, trying to stack up the numbers the way they were, I think he'll be a better hitter. I don't see Michael Conforto not being a better hitter. As a matter of fact, he will be a better hitter. Now, whether his numbers match up or not, that depends on who hits around him, who hits in front of him, who gets on, who hits behind him, and how other people react to their role too.
Are there guys who strike you as having made good strides since the end of last season?
I think Tyler Smith, you know, probably if I look at a guy that, you know, looks like he's in a position to handle himself pretty well, I think Tyler Smith's made a huge jump. Jake Rodriguez has went through some tremendous adversity, and I think that he's a better player, better think he's got a different perspective on things, let's say. I think Jake let the game get to him a little bit last year, emotionally and mentally at times, that affected with the kind of player he was. I think that he has a new perspective of not only the game but of life, and that probably has helped him. It has helped him. It's noticeably better. I believe that I really believe that Danny Hayes is in better shape than he's been since he's been here. You know, he's kind of we've had to patch him together 4 or 5 times, you know, since he's been here. I think he's finally healthy, and I think he's going to have a big year for us. And he's very capable of playing more than one position. He can play the outfield, he can play first base, and you know, he needs to be a solid defender for us.
Do you see Jake playing in 3 spot?
Absolutely. I think that Nate Esposito's done a nice enough job back there that it gives us the flexibility that Jake can go play second or third. I would just think that Jake would be on the field most of the time for us. Just brings a lot of energy to the game, a lot of passion to the game, and I think that he is, you know, a tough enough guy. He's one of those guys we want on the field all the time.
How do you see second and third stacking up, and who's kind of fitting into those spots?
Well, you know, we're playing Jared Casper and Jake Rodriguez mostly at third right now, and at second, you know, there's a couple different options. Kevin Kai's coming off his surgery with his labrum tear, is certainly a better defender right now than he's been in the past because he's healthy. Andy Peterson is a kid that is very active for us. He's a kid that came in from Santa Ana that's be able to play the outfield, be able to play anywhere in the infield other than first base. I'm impressed with him. And then, of course, Jake Rodriguez can play there. So I think we got some depth there because Andy Peterson can swing over and play short if he had to. So, you know, that's how I see that.
Can you talk about the guys who could fill, you know, use in the rotation? Given, you know, the depth that you have there, how has that affected how you're handling Jason, his recovery, and rehabilitation?
Well, you know, that is something that's really difficult to monitor because there's no barometer for you to know the exact time when a guy should come back from that type of an injury. He's a guy that we're going to protect because I think he's got a future. I'm kind of out of the mix with that as far as, you know, the progress because he follows a plan from the doctor and the trainer and the medical staff here at Oregon State. And then it just depends on how each guy recovers. There's guys that recover sooner than other guys with that particular injury. Jay seems to be doing very well when I see him. And, you know, I think that he will be a guy that will work tirelessly to get back on the mound whenever he can, whether that's this year, next year, middle of summer, whatever it is. I just know he's gonna have himself ready whenever the earliest possible time that is, you know, within a safe window of time for him.
Can you break down Andrew Moore a little bit for us, as far as repertoire and what you...
Well, you know, he's a 3-pitch guy with I like his breaking ball. It's somewhat of a 12-6 breaking ball. He sits anywhere from 87 to 91. Developed a change from the fall that has a little arm side run. Has pretty good tilt on his fastball. You know, throws the ball downhill. He's a competitive kid. We like Andrew. I think he's going to pitch for us, and I think, you know, especially early when you play 8 games and it's crazy. I don't know who made the schedule. I think Marty did. I'm going to have to call him up and find out what he's got going on with that. But we play 4 in Palm Springs, and we play 4 at San Diego State in a really short period of time, and therefore, you know, it's vital that we get not only get guys ready to get you a little bit further down the road, and we've been preparing for that. You know, for pitch counts are always in play in the first 3 weekends or 4 weekends, depending on the individual, but that we're going to have to get into our pen pretty good. So, a little concerned about that.
I know in the past you've kind of talked about going on the road for the first month and kind of having to deal with all of that. How do you feel like this year's team will benefit from going on the road?
Well, I think they'll benefit from it because it's going to be warmer, and the scenery's going to be a little better. I don't know. I just I just think that, you know, this team's got to be a club that it doesn't affect them whether we're on the road. We're on a neutral site for the first 4, and then we play at San Diego State. It's always tough early when you go play somebody who's been outside all the time on their own field. You know, that's always, unless it's turf. Then turf's like, you know, it's like playing on your front yard, you know, I mean, or your front room, your carpet, you know. But when you play at a site where somebody practices all the time, there's a little bit of an advantage there. But, you know, we should be, just like everybody else coming out of the chute down there at Palm Springs. We're going to play 3 different opponents. We're going to play 4 straight days, and we're going to get 2 days off, and then we're going to get after it again. So it's pretty good run there early.
And can you kind of talk a little bit about the effect that television will have on the club and maybe getting some extra exposure from the Pac-12 network?
You know, I think I think our conference speaks for itself as far as the championships that have been won, and certainly the exposure we get across the country with you know, representing our representation in the World Series is, you know, surpasses almost everybody, and so therefore, you know, I think this will help, but I don't think it's something that's going to be mind-blowing. You know, we hope that it doesn't keep people from coming to the yard when the game's on TV. I think we got 5 televised games, so I think we're in pretty good shape there. But, you know, this Pac-12 networks really is, I mean, it's a boon. I mean, the money that's coming out of it, I think, is going to really enhance the conference's ability to, you know, showcase our conference kind of like the SEC. And I think that's one of the problems that we've had as far as a conference is the ability to market our conference. You know, Tom Hansen, I don't think, did anything to market our conference in the sport of baseball. So this is nice to see the effort that's made for all sports.
Dylan Davis's role this year.
Well, you know, I think Dylan's an extremely talented guy. You know, right now he's kind of nursing a little bit of a quad, and he hasn't been able to run very much, so it's been mostly on the mound. But, you know, here's a guy that, you know, has a big arm and has big power, and, you know, at times last year was tough to get out, and, you know, at times you could get him out. But he you know, he's good enough that he could be in our rotation. He could close. He could do just about anything that he physically that you need him to do, and I hope that he's capable of doing that. That's a good question, because there's a guy's name that hasn't been mentioned much today, and you know, he's a guy that came in against LSU last year in the first game and was lights out, and came in the second game and, you know, wasn't quite as good. So if he gets consistent, he's really going to help us out.
Thanks up to having Taylor back for another year. Watched him a little bit in the summer, seemed like he was pitching well for the Knights. Just what he brings to the table, both on the mound and for the team.
Well, he's just, you know, he's, first of all, his story's kind of not only unique, but it's you know, it's pretty good roadmap there to recovery. And so guys like him, they respect the fact he's worked his way back. And most guys would have just given up on that thing after 3 surgeries and said, hey, I'll just go, you know, start punching the clock. And he didn't, and he hung around, and you know, I laughed when I walked in and found out he had another year, and I walked in my office and he was sitting there, and I said, hey, you know, you got another year? And he goes, really? I'm leaving for a job interview Monday. And I said, well, you might want to think about that. And so he did, and obviously came back. But he brings a lot of not only experience, but I think a lot of character to our club. And I really like T. You know, he helped us win some games last year. You know, I can tell you that. And I think he's better. I think he's better this year than he was last year. I think his breaking ball's better. He's more confident. I think, you know, he's further away from those injuries, that there's the fear in the back of his mind that it's, you know, something bad's going to happen, is gone. And so he's had a good early spring for us.
You had Andy Jenkins from the staff. How do you see him calling games?
How do I see him calling games? I don't see him calling any games.
Well, he could be coaching third.
Yeah. I think, you know, that out of the chute, I'll probably run the offense, and, you know, Andy and I will meet before games and before weekends and lay that out, kind of like what we did last year or over the last couple of years. You kind of lay out a game plan, and there's times where you can flash signs from the dugouts and relay what you want. There's times I'll let him have the freedom to do that on his own, but, you know, Andy's going to be a terrific coach here. You know, I see his face all over Oregon State baseball for a long time. This staff is, you know, a terrific staff to work with, and I think there's a lot of common ground on how we want to see things done. I think there's a lot of energy towards that ultimate goal, and I think that we work very, very well together, and I'm excited that Bales and Nate and Jenks and Matthews, and we got Dallas Buck on our staff now, and I just I think we got a good group of guys. But Jenkins is a guy that just got done playing 5-6 years of professional baseball. He's been on our staff. He knows what we want. He brings new ideas. Guys like him because he's young enough that he knows what they're talking about when they talk, and I don't. I mean, I hear him talking and running their cell phones, and I blank it all out, but he knows exactly what's going on. He's got a pretty good thumb on things, so I really like Andy.
Al, what about having Dallas back? Tell us a little how that worked out. What do you think he can bring to the guys?
Well, we didn't expect to have Dallas, and Dallas was in a situation where he was kind of trying to decide whether he wanted to start his career as a 8-to-5 guy or whether he wanted to go back and play some more baseball, or this thing just kind of spurred where he called me on the phone and said, hey, I'm taking classes online anyway. I really want to get involved again. I want to come back and coach. I said, well, come on back and we'll visit about it, and we did, and he's just started helping us out over the last 3 weeks. But I think hopefully he'll bring that toughness that he had as a competitor. He'll bring some of the things that don't have anything to do with X's and O's. I really like Dallas's demeanor. I like his work ethic. I like his makeup. And I really liked him on the mound on Friday. He was pretty good on Friday night. So I hope he brings some of that to some guys, and they understand. I mean, the Friday night thing's cool and it's good, and there's times when we had our best guy go on Saturday. I mean, that's happened before too. I just think that sometimes you stumble on a Friday night guy. Sometimes it's like Dallas, and he's just clearly the guy you want coming out of the chute early. He's the guy you want on Friday night. And sometimes, if you took Matty Boyd and you took Wetzler and you took Child, I think all of them could throw on Friday night. And who does that? I think we'll just see how we match up and who goes where.
Coming back for your 19th year, having a club like this, I mean, do you still get the jitters or excitement coming back for a year like this?
I don't think I get the jitters. I think you're anxious to get going. I know that every year you coach, you become wiser as to why you do coach, and I'm a fairly emotional guy when it comes to when I'm in competition, and when I mean that, I believe that I get into the game. I don't just sit back and manage. I think managers are for big league players, and I think I coach. I like to coach. I like to be involved. I like to be in it, and I appreciate the players that allow me to do that. It's a way for me to express my competitiveness, and but I don't get nervous anymore. I mean, I get anxious.
Are you excited about your club's potential, I guess?
Yeah, I am. But potential is, unless it's put into use, is useless. So I always say what they always ran around the minor league ballparks: prospect is suspect that don't expect. So I hope our expectations are fulfilled. I don't for any reason see any reason we can't be a very good baseball team. But I also know that the game isn't played, in the paper, and it's not played outside the white lines, and whoever crosses the white lines gets to play. And we certainly coach that way. That I don't feel like I'm a coach that thinks it's about me, and that I want the attention based around how I'm going to trick people. We're going to run a trick play and win the game, and I just think it's about the players, man. I mean, we're going to give them every opportunity to become the best player they can, and then they got to go play the game.
Can you talk a little bit about the Civil War rivalry and how that team down the road gets a little better involved, might enhance programs?
Well, I think it's good that anytime you're playing somebody that's that close in the conference, it's helped us out with that. I feel like I have a Civil War every weekend, so there's nothing special to me about playing them as it would be playing Stanford or Arizona State. They certainly have resources. The first year they were in the conference, we played them. I think we played them the first game of the year in conference. And, you know, the one thing I said after the game was that if anybody doesn't think they're not going to get good players in any sport they have here, they're mistaken, because they're going to get good players, and they've got very good players. So it's you know, it's a very good program. It's a program that we appreciate playing, and it's that proximity has made it exciting for our fans and for everybody around it. And we certainly have had them in some big games in the last 2 years when it mattered for both teams.
Any other questions? Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.